we believe, an SAS officer.
She's a kind of woman that puts herself last and everybody else first.
Yes. Her mom was a widow, and her older brother was in the Coldstream Guards in France. Since Florrie was the older daughter, she probably had a very tremendous responsibility.
A nice sort of bubbly personality with this lady.
I felt as if she was a very outgoing person.
I know she loves music. I know she likes to dance and she liked to sing.
She did like to dance, and she did like to sing. Understand she had a lovely voice and had often sung with some of the local bands.
Florrie and her two sisters did frequent most of the pubs in Bromsgrove, which was a bit of a shock to me, because I was led to believe that they didn't do that sort of thing. But the evidence is there that they did.
Bravery is important to that lady.
I felt like she probably struggled with this, her murder. And I think she was extremely brave. And I don't think she expected it.
My throat feels funny, my neck feels funny. I think someone's got their hands around my throat.
There was damage done to the neck, yes. Yeah.
She must have been cut as well.
Like a glint of light at the tip of a knife.
She had quite a few stab wounds.
Blows after blow after blow.
Tony was absolutely correct with that, with all the blows. 7, 8. Well, it could have been a surgical instrument or a knife.
Well, there was a number of knives photographed in the police report and the coroner's report that I saw. But I think the one that may have been the murder weapon was found in the 1950s in the Bridgman's Pool area, where they found her purse just after she was murdered.
Again, I'm being shown that Jack the Ripper thing. This is what I've done. It's almost, he wants people to find her. It's like he's quite proud of that.
Her skirt was pulled up a bit, and her legs were pulled apart.
It must have been a hell of an investigation, you know, as regards time and police, because they were interviewing people all over the Midlands, virtually.
I can remember the police always being around at home taking Mum off on identification parades. It intimidated Mum a bit, I believe. She did recognise him. When he was at any parade, she recognised him. But she wouldn't point him out because somebody come in the George Hotel and threatened the family. I said, you know, if you want your family to survive, especially the little one, I should identify him. Me, I was the youngest of 4. I was the youngest. They frightened Mum that much. She was that scared of the finish. She wouldn't. She did recognise him, but she wouldn't point him out. It got too scary.
But that's what I'm being shown, that he goes home, and that's why he can't be brought to justice.
The American soldier concerned told one of his buddies in the ward that he was supposed to meet Florrie that night. He said he told him the time he was supposed to meet her, but he had decided not to go.
She should have remembered a black guy.
The only thing I know about the black soldiers in the UK and in the United States Army was there was a definite color barrier during World War II. The officers that were at Bromsgrove were predominantly white.
There was a lot of black Americans in the town, and being most of us youngsters had never even seen a black person only on film, like at the cinema. So they were very unusual to see black people about the town.
Get off me!
What's going on? You all right, lady? She's fine.
Just go.
Certainly a feeling of having known her attacker.
Now, I tell you this, my darling, I know that this lady would have known her attacker.
I feel like she did know the man. Florrie knew because not only of her work at the hospital, but also you know, having met these men on a social occasion.
I feel this man is a professional man. He would have been respected. He would have had a position of authority. That's how he sits.
I do believe that her perpetrator, the killer, was a gentleman.
From the wound on Florrie's neck, I should say, it was somebody who was professionally trained. So it points in that direction. But the other mystery to me is if she was stabbed in the neck, there'd be an awful lot of blood there. I should imagine whoever did it must have been covered in it. They found no evidence of the uniforms being burned. They found no evidence of buttons, the remains of buttons, nothing at all. And they found no evidence of any staining on any of the soldiers that were interviewed.
The same gentleman must have either lived near the doctor's surgery or something of that nature.
The American hospital was across the street, well, just down the street from where she was murdered.
But he was creepy and he was odd and he was not quite right, you see.
And then there was also a mental hospital called Barnsley Hall that was located within the area.
But in my mind, Jack the Ripper was an American, so I'm also being confused in my head whether I'm supposed to talk about an American person or if that's just coming into my mind from that.
And Uncle Bert, which is Florrie's brother, used to come down and talk to my father about a letter he'd received. And the seal on the back of the letter fascinated me. I hadn't seen one like it before. And he told me to come all the way from America. I can remember my mother and father saying to him, well, you've done everything you could for Florrie, so stop worrying about it.
The letter postmarked from the United States. Was it a confession or an accusation? To this day, Alan doesn't know.
You were right about this lady. You were right about her too.
Yes, I am. I'm thrilled to death about that. Yes, I am going to write about her. The name of the book is Remembering Florrie.
Eyewitness arguing with an American soldier in the George Hotel, and later again arguing under a lamppost with a man in military uniform just yards from where her body was found. Her purse and several knives have been recovered, but the murder weapon and the murderer's identity still remain a mystery. Tony and TJ have come up with 3 theories for closer investigation. The first is that the murderer was the American soldier seen arguing with Florrie at the George Hotel. The second, that it was a respected professional known to Florrie and the Bromsgrove community. The third, that it was a black GI who took Florrie's life on that dark and windy night. Coming up, Colin Fry investigates the scene of the crime.
A sexually motivated attack, but without any intention to perform any specific sexual act on her.
And we come face to face with the suspected murderer, as psychic artist Hayden gives his impression, the last person to see Florrie alive. For the last 6 years, research into the murder of Florrie Porter has left Elizabeth Ashley Ruffin with questions unanswered. Top UK psychics Tony Stockwell and TJ Higgs have been called in to investigate the wartime murder of her distant relative. Now Colin Fry joins the murder hunt with a psychic examination of the scene of the crime.
In 1944, at the time of Florrie's murder, this would have been the main front of the school. And in fact, the area where she was found is over here, which has now been bricked up. This is very interesting. This is the school register for 1944. The 27th of October. The school was abandoned today because a body was found lying across the girls and infants entrance, and the police suspected murder. The school was sent home. The body was not removed until late in the afternoon. And where I'm standing here now, this is actually where Florrie's body was found. And against the wall line here, you can see where the door's been bricked up and plastered over. So this would have been like a veranda at the time. And as I'm actually standing here, I've got a cold spot where I'm standing. This is usually an indication to me that this is a place where some act of violence has taken place.
Certainly a feeling of having known her attacker.
I know that this lady would have known her attacker.
Her attacker
was known to her and was known well to her. It's an awful thing to say, but if in doubt, blame the Yanks. And I just, that's not what I get. That's not right.
While Colin is at Licky End School, Tony is investigating the George Marshall Medical Museum. He hopes to connect to Florrie's spirit by focusing on World War II medical artifacts.
All things will take on the living energy around them. So say for instance, this little case here, it would absorb the atmosphere of where it's stored, the people that keep it, the people that handle it. And it would have absorbed all of the atmospheres from the day of its creation to today. So for instance, if that particular object was stored in a place where during the war there was lots of amputations, lots of suffering, lots of pain, lots of people running around and a real sense of turmoil and trauma, then a psychic sensitive would touch that and they would feel quite quickly the sense of distress. And I guess being here, hopefully, it will just help me to look back all those years, connecting with items that would have been around, obviously, at the time when Florrie would have died. This is thank you with the Red Cross on. And being here, actually, it does help me. It helps me to feel more of the personality of Florrie and the kind of woman that she was, and the dedication that she had, and the compassion for other people, and the sanctity of human life. All these things that she would have held so close to her heart, and completely odd that her life should be taken so savagely. It kind of reminds me of Jack the Ripper. There's something almost like an echo of that.
It sounds a bit mad, but it feels like Jack the Ripper. That's the feeling I'm getting.
The sense that I'm being given is as Florrie was enticed into this area by a man that she knew. She knew this man well enough to feel that she could come into here and to talk to him. I get the feeling that he'd actually told her that he wanted to speak to her on a private matter, wanted to speak confidentially to her, but in his mind he had a very definite idea of what he intended to do to Florrie, and his intention was to murder. There's a strange feeling I'm getting of it being a sexually motivated attack, but without any intention to perform any specific sexual act on her. He wanted to deface her. He wanted her body to be humiliated when it was found. This wasn't some random frenzied attack. It was premeditated. It was revenge for not feeling for him what, in his opinion, he believed that Florrie should. And I actually feel that he had a sufficient understanding of the human anatomy to know where he could cut her, where he could stab her, to ensure that, you know, that she did not survive this attack.
I feel this man is a professional man.
I know that she would have had a lover at the time that she passed, because, and I'm seeing in my mind this very strong image of her looking at a young man and being afraid for him, because there was a love between him and her. And yet again, I know that he's an innocent. I just feel it's a wonderful love affair. He's in some way connected. The killer is drawn to her because of him and through him. Very, very intriguing that the killer is drawn to her because of this young lover that she has.
How was your day?
It's a feeling of being watched and being waited for.
I get the sense that maybe even the fact is that she felt that maybe that she was going to be subject to a blackmail, or that, you know, that her liaisons with a man that she very much loved was going to be exposed. And I think that she was coming here, or been enticed in here, to negotiate terms with this man of what it was going to take to keep him quiet. I do feel that she was coming here to negotiate terms of silence, as if it had been implied that this man was going to expose this double life that she was living.
I can see a point at the tip of a knife.
Looking at these knives, obviously these would have been around at the time that Florrie passes. And yet what I know now, that the instrument that would have stabbed Florrie would have been serrated. It's not clean like that. And I hadn't spotted that or worked it out before, but I feel as the knife penetrates her. It not only stabs her, but it also cuts her with each consecutive blow. So it's not here, obviously, and it's not a knife that we would find in a case like this, but it has to be serrated.
He would have had a position of authority. That's how he sits. The word I actually got was quite revered.
And this very strange thing that I'm picking up here is that even though this man would have had medical qualifications or medical training, as he was killing Florrie, blood on his hands disgusted him. And I feel that the disgust of having blood on his hands would only fuel his frenzy against Florrie in the attack. You're dirty and you've made me dirty. And suppressed, confused sexual desire for her. And again, I get this thing of him then arranging the body or doing something to the body to imply sex, but him, this conflict within him of being disgusted by the sex act, but enraged that she did not feel this way about him, and that could have such feelings for what in his opinion was some dirty American. And this obsession within his mind, what he considered to be dirtiness, both in moral behaviour and in cleanliness. As I stand here, thankfully, it is now a place of, children's happiness, and what has happened here in the past has not really left any, negative vibration here. It's like a faint memory. But I do hope what we've managed to pick up here today does take us a little bit closer to identifying Florrie's attacker and bringing a resolution to something that really should have been resolved many, many years ago.
I can feel the energy of Florrie with me. I can feel her slightly behind me and to the right, and I know that she's as interested in looking at these objects as I am. And she's willing me to move on. I don't understand it exactly, but there must be other areas, other locations that we need to visit.
So what of the theory that Florrie was murdered by a black American serviceman? Colin has asked for a photo that may hold the identity of Florrie's killer.
I'm actually sensing 3 black American servicemen. Some poor black American GI being accused of something that it is quite probable that he didn't do. There's a man that stands out, and I really don't like him. There's a feeling from him that's making me feel unbelievably uncomfortable. I hear a woman's voice in my mind just going, lies, 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 lies. I see a vicar or a parson who also failed to tell the truth. I feel terrible, terrible injustice here. I feel as though the case of a woman who has been murdered, there's injustice there, but I also feel that there's a terrible injustice that the wrong person was accused.
Colin has seen a conspiracy to distort the truth. To further the investigation, psychic artist Hayden is called in. He tries to blend with Florrie's spirit so that she will enable him to see the face of her killer. The image appears in Hayden's mind, and he tries to draw the face as accurately as possible. Was the murderer the American soldier seen arguing with Florrie at the George Hotel? Was he a respected professional known to Florrie and the Bromsgrove community? Or was it a black GI who took Florrie's life on that dark and windy night? One thing has become apparent. Hayden doesn't think it was a black GI. Coming up, Tony continues his investigation at a hotel frequented by servicemen during the war.
There's memories here connected with Florey's murder.
A numerologist, Didier Boyer, struggles with the spirit world to make his case.
In numerology terms, the people who are best designed to be surgeon need to have energy of detachment, not dissimilar to someone who is capable of murder.
Investigating the unsolved murder of Florey Porter in 1944, psychic Tony Stockwell has travelled to the Severn View Hotel in Worcester, where many American servicemen stayed. Psychic Art has discounted that the murderer was a black serviceman. Two theories remain. Firstly, that the murderer was the white GI seen arguing with Florey the night she was murdered, who then wrote a letter to Alan's Uncle Bert. Secondly, that it was a respected professional known to the Porter family who would have had the power to suppress any suspicion within the Bromsgrove community.
I know obviously this building has been used and frequented by GIs during the time of Florey's murder. Being in this room and being in this building is obviously very helpful because there's memories here connected with servicemen during the time of Florey's murder, and yet the kind of feelings I'm getting here are very much at odds with the feelings I felt with regards to Florey and the person that actually took her life. I don't think there's any kind of correlation or connection between the two. I've got a clearer understanding of who killed Florey, but I'm pretty sure now that it's nothing to do with Americans, servicemen, GIs of that day.
Tony now rejects any connection with military involvement. As the case gathers momentum, it has been reduced to one remaining theory, that it was a respected local professional who was involved in the death of Florey Porter. Working with key dates and events, numerologist Didier Boyer crunches the numbers to see what he can reveal.
I'm intrigued because I'm drawn more to the 27th of October, which will make a lot of sense to do with relationship matters. This case is a very odd one. Florence Porter, of all the cases I've looked at, is the one I kind of struggled the most with. To me, the shadow is a local person, and Florence is there, but I cannot connect militaries to Florence. If there was some kind of someone else being accused for someone, perhaps it was because someone was powerful enough or known enough to warrant a cover-up.
He would have had a position of authority. That's how he sits. The word I actually got was quite revered.
It's kind of a country person, country energy, not American soldier. I just can't feel that. I can't see that.
It's certainly a feeling of having known her attacker.
The shadow knows her and is going for her. But I'm not sure about whether there's jealousy or not, to the point of, to feel a jealousy energy to the point of such aggressivity of murder, that is odd. Also, it would be interesting to know if Florence didn't have any kind of relationships with someone with authority, like someone in charge of a hospital area. Because it's like something was trying to stop me talking. It came from here, so what picture was I looking at? I think, did she have something going on with authority? Someone medical? You know, and I don't want people to take it the wrong way, but when you're a surgeon or that kind of person, you can be caring, very caring, in a very detached way. It's the people, in numerology terms, the people who are best designed to be surgeon need to have energy of detachment, not dissimilar to someone who is capable of murder. When I was visualizing the top of the pyramid, that hurt me most. I think it means it is the right direction to go, not like, don't go there, you are completely false. If you can't connect a picture and a story, then there's something not right. I think it's someone at the top of a pyramid to do with medical, civilian, not military. Local person, I think it's local, and that's the way I would look.
Unlike Didier, Tony does not discount jealousy as a motive. He has arranged to meet Elizabeth Ashley Ruffin, Florrie's distant relative, in the Bromsgrove Cemetery, where Florrie's final resting place is an unmarked grave.
When you lay someone to rest and you put them in a coffin, you lay them straight, don't you?
Yes.
There's something odd, because either she's not laid out properly, I don't know what it means, but I feel as though I'm buckled, or that there's something where she leans forward. Would you know if there was any possibility at all that she was pregnant when she died?
I don't think so.
Because when she leans forward, it's almost like I'm protecting here.
My stomach is really hurting as well.
There is something here in my mind that talks to me about the fetus of a baby, a fetus, and it's known to her shortly before she passes. I feel, and I'm going to make this statement, I feel that she's pregnant when she passes, because she wants me to sit down with her. I know that I'm drinking tea. I know there's at least one other female there with her as we sit and we sip tea. I know these two women have a conversation, so there I believe that Florrie must have spoken of feeling uneasy, not quite herself, and a sense of just knowing something's not right. I get this sense that she's had an affair with a younger man, and yet she's very much fancied and wanted by an older fella. Do you know, it's like a woman who knows her own power, and yet there's two men that want to court her. The younger man is something of an innocent, and yet the older man is far more controlling and intensely jealous and desperate to covet her and want her for himself. The man that we talk of has connections with mental illness, maybe his own, but undiagnosed. And yet I know that he would have been able to speak to and enlist the help of others.
Lies, 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 lies. I see a vicar or a parson who also failed to tell the truth.
I know that she's attacked. It's one person that attacks her, and yet there's others involved. It's very difficult to work out. I know one person is attacking, and yet there are others, other people that have knowledge, that keep quiet, that cover up information.
A sexually motivated attack, but without any intention to perform any specific sexual act on her.
I know that this same gentleman spits on her, is trying to violate her body, violate her. It's like this man gets off on the violence, you see that? So the sexual part of the act is carried out after, and carried out many, many times when he considers and thinks about what he's done. At this moment, Elizabeth, the clearest thing I can get is that she's attacked by a man who's mentally deranged. I'm so unsure whether I'm talking about two men, one that instigate, one that carries out, or in fact it's one character with two completely separate personalities. Ever so strange. And unusual for me, because I can usually feel one way or the other, but I'm perplexed, completely perplexed. This particular case has been quite frustrating in as much as it's ducked and it's dived. But each time I've been able to investigate, I think I'm almost there. And then it'll change, and then there'll be twists and turns within the case. I believe very much that Florrie wants to reveal to us exactly what happened and who did it. And then, of course, you've got the murderer, obviously now in the spirit world himself. But I believe he may still be interfering with this investigation. He may be able, from the other side, to distort some of the information we receive, because it's almost so we can feel him, and yet we cannot see him as clearly as we should be able to. I know that she recognises his face, and I know she knows this man well. He's older, 45, 46, 47, 48 years of age, when he takes her life. But there is this very strange, almost schizophrenic